Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you are looking to get the word out about your coaching business, or you want to get a job at a health coaching company, I've put together a free resource list of companies, apps, and directories that feature coaches or hire coaches. If you want to check it out, it's at haileyrowe.com/resource list, all one word, and hope it comes in handy. Because she is a private client who has been working with me, and we've been working on her functional health practice and her coaching business. And she has a wide background when it comes to health, so I'm going to let her kind of share that. But thank you for being here today. Why don't you just start by introducing yourself and a little bit about what made you want to get into the health field?
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. So I have an interesting background, not super conventional. Started out conventional, went to medical school and then residency training in neurology, and practiced general neurology for a few years, and then decided for personal reasons to take a bit of a break. So I took a few years off, and then during that time, I decided to also kind of expand my toolbox because I, number one, wasn't super satisfied with my toolbox as it was with, the type of patients that I was treating in neurology. It's a bit of a joke, it's like diagnose and adios because we have a very limited toolbox, and it's a lot of complex chronic illness that we just don't have all the answers to. So for that reason, and then also for personal health reasons, I just wanted to kind of expand my toolbox, and started out kind of getting curious about acupuncture, and then, went to my first meeting on integrative medicine and was like, had my really big aha moment, like, wow, like there's a whole piece that I missed in medical school, or pieces, I should say. And so it kind of just blossomed from there. Just opened up a whole new world to me. And so I, started exploring, doing a lot of self-learning, self-certifying. I ended up getting board certified in integrative medicine. I did training in functional medicine. I did training in medical acupuncture. And I worked in the clinic setting for about 7 years, practicing functional medicine, integrative neurology, medical acupuncture, and then decided again to take a pause. Took about a year off in 2022, and decided, how can I reinvent my practice even more? Because I realized that a lot of my success was I was much more successful and much more satisfied professionally, for sure, practicing this way in a more integrative and functional way. But most of my patients that had the most success were those that really embraced the lifestyle piece. And a lot of that really is difficult to do on your own. And I did play a bit of a coaching role for some of my patients that wanted that and came frequently to see me. So I did a lot of soul searching during 2022 and thought, well, what if I integrated health coaching with, functional medicine practice? So that's kind of how my new practice evolved. And so I blend both health coaching with, practicing functional medicine with clients. And it's been even more satisfying, I have to say, because nearly everybody I work with now is somewhat of a success story. So it's been really fulfilling. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And it feels probably more aligned with you and what you believe in, and incorporates all different types of healing options for people. So one of the things that, when you were reinventing your business, you probably realized, oh, wait, this isn't how I used to be, where I used to work at a practice where they would have patients booked for us, and now I have to go book clients. So
Right.
what were some of the shifts that you, or I guess points where you were starting to get stuck when it came to starting your own business?
Well, there were a lot of shifts and a lot of points there. It was a huge learning curve for me. So they don't teach you how to run a business in medical school, and I don't have the gene that automatically makes me good at, being a businesswoman. So I did have to, you know, teach myself a lot, and I did over the course of about a year manage to learn how to put together brick by brick my practice, which is all online. But I managed to figure out most of the pieces. But I initially kind of relied on old clients and used an email list and would reach out to them. And I did have some success gaining clients that way. Also, just, through local outreach, giving talks locally and things like that. But that the success was limited, and also because of my health, I did get diagnosed with a cancer diagnosis and had to take a bit of a pause in 2024. So that was a bit of a stumbling block. But once my cancer therapy was done, I decided to look at options for how to further improve my marketing and advertising, and increase my clientele. So that's when I reached out to you and worked with you privately, and found it very helpful for sure. I would say, I'm not somebody who's a lover of social media, and I have not really embraced it as much as I should. I realize that. Um, so you helped me kind of leverage, you know, my, existing clientele, my email lists, and, putting together strategies to try and kind of reel people in that way, which was effective. You helped me sort of redo my website, which was very helpful too. And you just helped kind of clue me in and give me like direction and ideas that I wouldn't have thought of on my own. So, I was able to get some very high ticket clients. For example, I did through some of the strategies that you helped me put together through email outreach. I was able to, have an old client come back and have her whole family work with me, which was a very high ticket client. So that was, extremely, that was very successful for me. So yeah, I mean, there still are stumbling blocks, but you were extremely, extremely helpful.
Yeah. And what I like to do with clients is, like, if you aren't, we talked about social media and how there was things you could do before that were lower hanging fruit and path of least resistance for you. And so one of the things that I like to emphasize is you don't have to jump to something brand new just because everyone else is doing it. Like Dr. Rana here had stuff we could actually work with that we were maybe missing opportunities. And so we did that first. And now she's getting to the point where she's like, okay, now I'm feeling more ready for social media. So I think a lot of people think that it has to be social media or else, like there's no other way you can be successful. But you've been able to leverage some local partnerships, leverage your email list, look at, a referral program for your audience, things like that. So I'm curious, like, what are maybe some things that you feel more confident about, either when it comes to like writing things or doing things in your business going forward?
Definitely putting together like funnels and emails. Like that was something that was a little bit more of a weakness for me. So definitely You helped me put together some good email funnels, but on my own, I put together some other, email funnels for, other little mini projects that I was working on. So that was definitely very, very helpful.
Yeah. What are some of the maybe mindset blocks you had to work through, or things that you opened your eyes to, or that maybe you were able to shift when it comes to the mindset piece?
I would say it's still something I'm working on. My biggest mindset obstacle, I would say, is I'm not very good at social media and having a little bit of a hesitation and apprehension, and still find it a little scary, to be honest with you. That is a little bit of a mindset shift, but I have to say that I think I am getting to the point where I'm kind of getting over that and saying no. I think I'm a smart person. I've gotten to where I am because I am a smart person, and I think I can tackle this. So that's kind of my next step.
I love that. So what would you say to someone who's hesitating about getting support because maybe they feel like, do I really need it? Could I just figure it out on my own first? What would you say to someone who's maybe hesitating about getting customized support?
I would say if you're working with the right person, and Hailey's the right person. If you're working with the right person, even if you are very bright and intelligent, like you can get your eyes really opened up to, different viewpoints, vantage points, ideas that you wouldn't have thought of on your own for sure. So, and especially if you're not somebody like me who's super business minded, I think it's invaluable to work with somebody who does, kind of do that day in and day out, helping people to kind of craft their business.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so some of the things that, I noticed in you was a couple things. One, you've gotten way more active with nurturing your audience and your email list. You have booked more discovery calls and clients. You ran a challenge. You have a really strong freebie or lead magnet. You did a local event here and there. Did some podcast interviews. Can you just share a little bit about how did you, because a lot of those things may, especially, maybe doing podcasts or something, someone might feel very nervous when they do some of those things for the first time, or very overwhelmed. So how did you manage that? And what would you say to someone who's maybe like, oh my gosh, that just sounds so over my head or so scary? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, well, I'll backtrack and say for sure you were definitely very resourceful in that regard. All the podcast interviews that I did, which I did a handful, was through your referral network, which I'm very appreciative of. In general, I'm a person who I don't personally get too nervous during, podcast interviews, but I could definitely see how some people do. But I think it just takes, some courage and just doing it once or twice to realize it's really not that scary. And once you do one or two, the next few just kind of come naturally. A lot of it is a lot of repetition anyway. So you get asked a lot of similar questions. And so you kind of go on autopilot in a little bit. But yeah, I would say if you are somebody who has a little bit of apprehension and you're shy about it, you just have to try it once or twice to just kind of show yourself that you can do it. And it's really not as scary as you think.
Yeah, right. Sometimes it's just doing it and doing it nervous with the nerves present.
Mm-hmm.
So was there any other wins you want to share, as far as just aha moments or things you learned, or just things you liked about coaching when maybe you liked the accountability piece, or I don't know, anything in particular come up for you?
Yeah, I definitely, I really liked the accountability piece. I liked the frequency. I think we met every 2 weeks. of our meetings together, there was always something, even if I thought to myself, oh, I haven't really done as much as I should have this last 2 weeks, according to, your recommendations, there was always something to talk about, something to improve, something to work on. You were very good at kind of leveraging, well, what is sort of working and how can we expand on that? And not kind of keeping me stuck to kind of a very linear path. So, for example, like you did try to kind of nudge me to use Instagram more, and for various reasons, my life was very busy, and maybe I was making excuses, but I wasn't really embracing it and kind of doing kind of what you were nudging me to do. But we figured out other ways on the next call. We figured out, okay, well, let's put that aside. Let's kind of figure out something else, another mini project. What are you working on? How can we expand on that? So there was always something that you helped me with every single time.
Yeah, right. Pivoting the plan. There's different ways to market. And if one doesn't, align with you, or you don't want to stick with Instagram, you don't love social media, there's always another way. So what would you say is like one of the other things too I know about you is that you're a mom, you've had your own health diagnosis that you've had to work through, you've had times where health has to really be your top priority, and almost like, it's just a lot going on in your world. So what are any tips you'd say for someone who's like trying to juggle that and maybe feels guilty for like, oh, I'm spending so much time on XYZ, I want more time for my business? Like any advice you'd give when it comes to, as someone who does juggle a lot, how you've been able to do that?
It is challenging for sure. I would say it helps a lot to have an online business, and have the flexibility of being able to, manage your day. If I have to take a kid to a doctor, I can plan most of my clients in the afternoon because that's my morning, so that's extremely, extremely helpful. But, I've just learned to be a much better organizer and planner, which I always thought I was, but I've been much better at it since building my business. So I think organization and planning are really, really key. And it's a challenge that we all kind of have to figure out on our own. What works best, for your situation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think too, one of the things that we discussed, it was like we had kind of your game plan in between sessions, but we started to say, here's here's the top priority list, here's kind of like moderate, and if you get to it, great. Just because it's not, if everything's top priority, then what can actually, how do you know where to start, right? So what would you say is next for you in your business, and like what are you excited about? What's next for you going forward?
Yeah, so a couple things. One, I have been a little more successful in converting some of my clients to more long-term clients. I have a few that I believe are going to want to continue working with me, so I'm trying to nurture that. That's part of my scalability piece. And I am, like I said, starting to get more comfortable, a little warmer with the idea of engaging in social media. So I think that's going to kind of be my next chapter, is finally taking that leap and just going with it.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Is there anything else you want to share about the work you do and how people can connect with you?
Yeah, so I think a lot of your audience is probably familiar with functional medicine, but they call us sort of super generalists and inflammologists, inflammation doctors, because a lot of chronic disease is rooted in chronic inflammation. So I tend to see all walks of people, and people that have complex chronic illnesses and problems that have not had a lot of success going the conventional Western medical route. So I'm happy to work with all comers. I do have an interest in working with women in midlife that are dealing with perimenopause and menopause and brain fog and cognitive issues, because I am a neurologist, and it's kind of a secret passion of mine to be involved in this movement to help prevent and treat early cognitive decline as much as possible. So that's kind of my secret mission. But I work with all comers and happy to, work with people using a very, very comprehensive, holistic approach.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. And we can't wait to see you showing up on social media very soon. Love it. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.